Good evening, everybody. It is the Tuesday edition this week of the Safety and a Sportswriter show with Knoxville Nate and Big Joe. And it is a crossover into Nate's Sunday show, which me and coverage, which specializes in NCAA football. Usually he's got James Bonneville on with him. James is not available tonight, unfortunately, but we are going to spend a lot of time on college football today, plus a little NFL about since the roster cuts came out. And we have a lot to get to. Nate, first of all, how was vacation last week?
Pretty good, buddy. Pretty good. I enjoyed taking a little time off. I wish I could say I'm refreshed, but when you chase a 4-year-old around the ocean for 6 days, refreshed is not really the word that you can use. Exhausted, tired, more tired, but we had fun. And it was a good time. My whole family was down there, so it was great to see everybody and got to see some friends as well. So it was good times and pretty decent weather. We had some rain down there, but it was actually more like 80s in South Carolina in August instead of like 100 like it usually is.
Yeah.
So it was pretty sweet.
Now, we need some rain up here. I tell you that much. It's been a while since we've had rain. And around the country, we need rain. But I'll tell you, one thing I saw just on the news, just a little bit off sports, was there's a guy somewhere in the South, I think it's in Florida, that has an alligator as a comfort pet. Wow, how much comfort can you have with an alligator? I don't know.
I'm sure he's probably got an assistance tag for it so you can take it to the airport with them. I see more and more people now, with their rescue, what are they called? Assist pets or whatever.
Yeah, the comforter or whatever.
Comfort pets, yeah, that they have them at the store and they're, walking around the airport with them. I'm like, can I bring my dog to the airport too? Because I like my dog, all I need is a special tag for him and I can take him wherever I want. Works for me. But I've got to say, didn't see any gators down on the coast, but we saw lots of dolphins. We saw a bunch of wildlife. We took a eco tour and got to bounce around the coast and go out in a boat and saw a lot of really cool stuff and got to do a little crabbing and fishing and stuff like that. So it was pretty nasty.
Yeah, it's nice. I would say deep sea fishing is so much fun. I've never gone off to see the dolphins or the whales or anything. I'd love to go out there and see those pop around a lot. But I used to go fishing down the Keys every year, and that was always a great time. But anyways, let's get into a little football like we talked about coming on the air. Just a shout out to Jim Nance for going out on a limb, making the Chargers his sleeper pick of the year. I think I heard he must have researched that all of 15 seconds to come up with that. My God, Jim, please.
What, do you have to call Tony Romo to get that one or what? But I don't know, man. It feels good being back football season. I know it's still week 0, but we did have some games, so it feels good seeing some football. I went to a high school game here in town the week before, the Friday before we left, and got to see some high school football, and and then we had the college season, actually kicking off. So it's nice. It feels like football, and I can't wait to get back into the games. We don't have to talk about Deshaun Watson anymore.
No.
We don't have to talk about, who's going to, where Baker Mayfield's going or what Jimmy Garoppolo is doing at practice. We don't have to talk about any of that shit anymore.
No, it's real now.
I'm pretty excited.
It's real now. All right, let's get into the NFL a little bit in the cuts. I don't see a lot of things that jump out as me as surprising. I mean, Trace McSorley, that's nothing big that the Cardinals cut him. I mean, I don't know. I was looking through it and I didn't see any. I was a little bit surprised that the Ravens released their backup quarterback, Hundley. If I saw that right.
Yeah, they did. They did release him, but they've got that's not the they've got another guy too. I'm trying to pull that up because I'm a little confused. They had Brett Hundley on their roster who they released.
Right.
But I don't think they released. Yeah, they didn't release their backup.
Oh, Huntley. Okay.
Huntley is their primary backup, the guy from Utah, and he's still on the roster. They did cut Anthony Brown, who was their third stringer out of Oregon, who is from Jersey, up in your neck of the woods, and played at where did he play? Oh, Boston College. He played at Boston College before he left. Some of the bigger names that were kind of surprising to me were the Vikings releasing Kellen Mond,
Yep.
who they picked in the second round, 2 years ago. That experiment didn't last very long. I don't think they like what they've seen out of him. And then, Alex Leatherwood, who was a first round pick. I mean, do the Raiders just like to waste first round picks? Because they have cut more first round picks than any other team. They cut Alex Leatherwood, who was their starting tackle last year, was fighting for a starting tackle job this year. He's gone. Marlon Mack, the running back from the Texans.
I was shocked at that one.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of thought he would get a chance. I mean, I know he was battling it out with the Damon Pierce, the rookie from Florida, who looked good in preseason, but they don't really have a ton behind Pierce. And, Rex Burkhead, how long is that guy going to be available? Because he's now going to have to take a bulk of the load. But some of these guys will get signed back.
No, I agree. But I mean, and Rex Burkhead at best is your third option at running back.
Oh, he's a third down back, in my opinion.
Right. I mean, he worked so well in that Patriot rotation where he would get maybe five carries a game, but most of it was about catching out of the backfield and just being there for blitz pickup for more than anything else.
Yeah.
And how about O.J. Howard getting cut?
Yeah, I was a little bit surprised by that, honestly. I've liked him, and I kind of was looking forward to seeing what that looked like with him on one side and Dawson Knox on the other. But, he may not be back from that injury. He had a very serious injury, last year. I think he blew out his Achilles. Was it Achilles or an ACL? I can't remember which, but that was a pretty serious injury, and he just might not be right yet. And the one thing you got to realize is some of these vested veterans, if you have them on your roster the first week of the season, their salary is guaranteed. So, these teams generally like to go with the younger guys. And then if these guys clear waivers, like I said, they'll bring them back. But I was kind of shocked to see Duke Johnson get cut also from Buffalo. That's a position that we thought they need to, add some pieces to as opposed to take away from. So I was kind of surprised to see him get released. And, there were some other guys, too, that
Sony Michel got released, too.
Yeah, from Miami. That also kind of shocked me. I'm a big fan of Sony Michel. Once he got 3 Super Bowls.
Yeah, I would love to see the Giants try and maybe pick him up and get him as the backup to Barkley. I mean, he'd be perfect for it. One thing I was kind of shocked to see Nathan Peterman get cut again.
Good Lord. How is that guy still being invited to camps is what I want to know. I mean, he was one of the worst college quarterbacks I ever saw when he was here at Tennessee. And I know, he did step up his game a little bit and played pretty well, honestly, for the Pittsburgh Panthers, but, has been one of the worst quarterbacks in the history of the NFL and still somehow gets tossed around. And I was kind of shocked to see Barkley get cut too. I know he's the third quarterback, but this is a guy that, played really well and looked good in the preseason. Honestly, I thought, I think someone will pick him up. And, you saw your Giants also cut Davis Webb. So they've got 2 quarterbacks.
I was about to bring that up. That's like the coldest thing ever. Just to put it in perspective, Davis Webb is the quarterback they throw in to replace Eli Manning and get booed out of the stadium. They bring him back 3 years later, and then they cut him. It's like that is just throwing salt in a wound. When I saw that, I was like, that's just cold.
Well, and he played really well in the preseason. He looked really good, and was the guy getting the bulk of the snaps and looked really good. And then Tyrod Taylor got banged up, And so I'm like, they'll probably keep Davis around. Now, my guess is if he clears waivers, they'll bring him back and put him on the practice squad. But
True.
based on the way he played, I don't know if they're going to be able to do that. And, the Cowboys tried to get cute and cut all their quarterbacks except for Dak right now. I don't know if you saw that. But they got rid of all their kickers. They got rid of because they've got some guys that they have to put on the PUP list, but you can't do it if they're not. You can't put these guys on the PUP list if they're not on the roster. So they've got several guys that are still banged up. Michael Gallup and several other players that they need to hide on the PUP list, but they can't do it unless they're on the roster. So they cut Cooper Rush, they cut Will Greer, they cut all their kickers, and are looking to kind of do some finagling with their roster as they get to it. And they also cut the wide receiver out of Indiana, Ty Freifogel, who looked pretty damn good at Indiana, but apparently his career is going to end with the first camp.
Yeah, first of all, going to the Cowboys, I mean, they're kind of set at wide receiver. I mean, I don't know, but anyways, it's I'm looking up and down to see if there's any more that jump out at me, and nothing really jumps out. My boy Josh Rosen went down again, but that's predictable.
Yeah, There's
got to be something wrong with him. There has to be something wrong. He either pisses off the coaches or something. He doesn't show up.
Yeah, well, they kind of just brought him in, I believe, to be an arm at camp. It kind of seemed like there with Watson going to be suspended, and they needed another guy in there in case they didn't want to put him out on the practice field. But then they ended up playing him a lot, so it didn't really make a whole lot of sense. And what was he there for? Like 2 weeks? Yeah. I hope he got his parking validated. Because he didn't get paid a lot of money to go up there to Cleveland, that's for sure.
It's about time. It's about time he started looking outside for a new. Josh Gordon got cut.
That's what I was just about to say. I'm like, is this the end of Josh Gordon? I mean, I can't see his career continuing. I mean, I think this has got to be it for him, right? I mean, this was kind of his last chance to impress with the Kansas City Chiefs. And if you're a wide receiver who can't make it with the Chiefs,
yeah,
your career's got to be over, right?
Yeah, you would think. Oh, Kevin Pierre-Louis got cut. My boy.
I saw that. And another one was Kenyon Drake, the running back from the Las Vegas Raiders. He also got cut, which I thought was kind of interesting based on the success that he's had the last few years. That's a guy that's played pretty well, and I'm thinking about that backfield. Josh McDaniels kind of done he's done a pretty big overhaul of this roster since he got there. And, I think with Drake now being gone, you're looking at Josh Jacobs, you're looking at Brandon Bolden, who he brought with him, and you're looking at Zamir White, the kid out of Georgia, who I believe was a 4th-round pick. And I think Zamir White, I don't know if you saw it, but I saw him really impress the coaches and the staff in the preseason. I think Zamir White is going to make some noise with the Raiders. I think he's going to get some carries. And then also 7th-round pick Britton Brown, the kid out of UCLA, he's also probably going to make that team and get some carries too. Because, Brandon Bolden, he was on the Patriots for years, but he's more of a special teams guy. He's more of a short yardage, fullback kind of dude. He's not really a hand-the-ball guy, 15, 20 times a game kind of guy.
Yeah, but, he could be, and this comes from the Belichick-Parcells school of thought. You like to bring along, for lack of a better term, your sheriffs in the locker room, the guys who will send your message to the other players. And sometimes it's a special team player. A lot of times it's a veteran on his last legs. I remember when Belichick started out in Cleveland, he brought Carl Banks in, and then he brought Pepper Johnson in. They bring these guys that bring their message and can kind of police the locker room for him. So that's probably what Bolden's there for, more than anything else. And Kenyon Drake, I mean, he's had a nice little run, not a great career, but he had a nice little run. But we also know what he is, and so maybe Josh McDaniels figures it's better to go with the unknowns right now and see what he can get out of them.
Well, yeah, and at that position, once again, you want to go with your younger guys. He's got two really good, rookie running backs, and
Right.
you put those guys on the roster at the beginning of the season. One of them doesn't do what you think that they're going to do, or doesn't look good once the season gets going. You can always bring that guy back. I mean, there's running backs out on the turf right now. I mean, you talk about Marlon Mack, you talk about Kenyon Drake. There's several guys that are available at the running back position, that somebody can go out and get. I thought it was interesting too, with bringing in Tyreek Hill and all the changes that the Dolphins made. They kind of got rid of all the wide receivers that were there. They cut Mohamed Sanu. They cut Preston Williams. They cut Lynn Bowden Jr., who they had traded for from the Raiders the year before. So that's three guys that they got rid of that were, on their roster the year before. So they're definitely a team that's going in a new direction with their new staff.
And we'll see. They have to, really. I mean, I in that division that they're in, you got the Chiefs ensconced at the top. You got the Chargers really making moves. You got Denver, who's going to be. They're going to have to, do something. I think special, and Josh McDaniel's going to have to prove himself this time. I mean, so it's better he does it with his own people, not somebody else's guys, I think.
Yeah, and just to to finish off on some of these quarterback moves, I'm kind of shocked that Nick Mullins won the job as the backup quarterback in Minnesota. I mean, I get it; they didn't like Kellen Mond. They were the ones that drafted his ass, but Spielman is gone, and they've got a new general manager in there, so maybe he didn't like that. He went ahead and got rid of him, but they also cut Sean Mannion, who was their backup quarterback last year and, played in several games. And so they're going in a different direction. I'm not sure Nicky Mullins is the best direction to go if their quarterback, Kirk Cousins, were to go down.
Yeah, but I think it's, it maybe Mannion's a little bit better than Mullins. Mullins is probably a little bit younger. Mullins has shown when he was with the Niners that he can do a decent job for a game or two. And if it's long term, neither Sean Mannion or Nick Mullins is going to be the answer anyway. So it's kind of, I don't know. You want a good. There's so many average quarterbacks out there behind the top 32 players at that position, and I don't know. I'm not going to split hairs over that one that much.
No.
I didn't look at any. Who did the Lions let go of? The Lions let a couple of controversial ones go.
Not really. Detroit didn't really cut many people, so I guess they didn't have a ton of people on their roster left, because they only cut like 6 or 7 guys, and nobody really of note. So I guess the Lions are pretty happy with who they've got and what their roster's looking like. I don't know. I'm not sure that they're ready to compete with the Packers, but I definitely think that their roster looks better than it did last year. I mean, I like the addition, as we talked about before, DJ Chark, Josh Reynolds, the 2 wide receivers that they added in the offseason. They've also got Khalif Raymond and Amon-Ra St. Brown at wide receiver as well, not to mention Quintez Cephas from Wisconsin. And then, Jared Goff's back there. They kept David Blau. They've got DeAndre Swift, Jamal Williams. I like those 2 running backs. I don't like what they have behind those 2 guys. But if those guys stay healthy, they should be good. And this defense is better, I mean, is this defense going to shut people down? No, but they added the safety Deshaun Elliott from the Baltimore Ravens. They've got Jeff Okudah, who hopefully finally may be back healthy. He was selected, number 3 overall, and he's just kind of been a disappointment. I mean, I'm a Buckeye fan. Everybody knows this, but I got to be honest, I've been kind of disappointed with what Jeff Okudah has done, and this is kind of a make it or break it season for him if he's going to ever do anything for the Lions.
Yeah, true. But I'd like to see. I like Campbell as a coach. I'd like to see him make some moves. Plus, I'm kind of sick of the Patriots, or not the Patriots, the Packers. Kind of sick of their stranglehold on the top, and I don't know if anybody else can make the jump right now. So it'd be a nice to see some competition there. we said we weren't going to bring it up, but it was kind of shocking, but it finally got settled. The Jimmy Garoppolo thing. He's staying in San Francisco. Your opinion on that?
Yeah, I mean, this is what I said all along. I don't understand why not keep him at this point. Where's he going to go? Nobody really wants to absorb or is in a position to absorb that $24 million salary. I mean, I think if somebody has a major injury, you may be talking about a trade later, in the season. But at this point, I think you stick with him and you make him your backup. And if things don't go well with Lance, you put him back out there. But I just feel bad for Jimmy because I don't really feel like he's earned this demotion. I don't feel like he's done anything to be, put into second position. I just don't feel like Trey Lance has shown me that he's better than Jimmy Garoppolo. I mean, I told you I did like what he looked like in camp. I saw the 76-yard touchdown that he threw, and I was impressed with that. And this is a guy who, in time, could be a good quarterback. But this is a dude, Jimmy Garoppolo, who took this team to the Super Bowl. He took this team to the championship game. I don't understand it. And they say it's because it's availability. What was he been hurt twice? I mean.
Yeah. Well, the thing about Jimmy Garoppolo, and we've covered this at length, so I don't want to make a big deal out of it, but if you look around the league, I think he could start over Ryan Tannehill. I think he could start over Carson Wentz. I know he could start over Daniel Jones right now. He could start over Zach Wilson right now. So that's 4 teams. He should be starting on the Texans. That's 5 teams. I don't want to go any deeper into it, but that's at least 5 teams where he should be starting because a lesser quarterback is starting.
He could start for the Seahawks as well. I like him. I like him a lot more than Locke or Geno.
Right, so that's 6 teams he could be starting for, and instead he's going to be sitting on the bench. And it's just I know it's money, I know it's a lot of different things that go on, but it just doesn't seem right that he's sitting on the bench. And hopefully it's something work out for him. Another thing I wanted to talk about before we get on to the NCAA is Sam Darnold got saved, by a high ankle sprain. And I'll tell you one thing, I think he'd never come out and say it because he's a classier guy than that. But in a way, it kind of, I think, lets Baker Mayfield relax for at least a few weeks. We're not going to hear if Baker has a bad week. Well, maybe they should put Sam back in.
Yeah, I mean, I think that may have something to do with it. I really don't think – I mean, I know they tried to kind of make this into a competition, but let's be honest. If Sam Darnold was their starting quarterback, they wouldn't have gone out and traded
Right.
for Baker. They wouldn't have even explored the option if they really felt like Sam Darnold was the answer for them. And so I don't think it really was a competition. I think they made the move because they realized they had no chance. I think Matt Rule understood that if he stayed, stood pat with Sam Darnold as his, QB1, his career as a NFL head coach was probably going to be over. So, I like the move. I liked them bringing in Baker. I feel like this is a place where, at least Baker's got a chance. He's got some weapons around him. The offensive line isn't really ideal. But at the same time, this is a chance for him to start anew. This is for him to begin a new life in his career. And I really hope it works out for him. I am now a true Baker Mayfield fan, and I hope that this, this new home, does well for him and that he plays well, especially week 1.
Do you think Baker and Matt Rule crossed paths back in their college days when he was at Baylor and Baker was at Oklahoma? Was he down there when Baker was there? Rule?
Yeah, at least for a year, I believe. He had to have seen him play and played against him when he was the coach of Baylor, I believe. That sounds right.
Maybe that little bit of knowledge will give Rule kind of and not to say he'll be the guru to bring the best out of Baker, but maybe he saw Baker at his best, and maybe he realized where Baker excels, and we'll do something with that.
Well, I mean, I think he saw the same things that we saw. This is a guy who looked pretty damn good in 2020. I mean, I realized 2021 was no cakewalk, but he played pretty well in 2020 and looked, was the darling of the NFL. So I think he saw a guy that if he's healthy, he can help this team and he can make this team better, and he can, make throws and make plays where Sam Darnold couldn't. So, yeah, they definitely saw 2017. 2017, Matt Rule's first year at Baylor when he went 1-11. Baker was a senior at Oklahoma. So, yeah, he was probably on the wrong end of that one.
Yeah, you saw him at the Heisman year. All right, let's get into the NCAA. We had a little bit of action last weekend, Northwestern and Nebraska specifically to talk about. And Nebraska came out of the gate and shot themselves in the foot. I'm going to let you expand on it, but I mean, you said it to me on the phone, and I can't help but agree with you. You saw a true good college football coach, a solid college football coach. Maybe if he had the right team instead of his loyalty to his alma mater, Pat Fitzgerald, out-coach a guy who's in over his head at his alma mater.
Yeah, I mean, if the calendar didn't say 2022 on it, we would think we were watching 2021 all over again. I mean, it seems to be the same deal. Nebraska plays well enough to be in the ball game, has a lead at one point in time, is actually a double-digit favorite before this game begins, and then lo and behold, they blow it. And you know what? It's one thing if you're in the ball game and you lose a couple of close ones, that can sometimes fall on the player's back and fall on, be blamed towards execution. But when you're talking about, and this is a pretty crazy stat, when you're talking about a team that is 5-21 in one-score ball games under the same coach, that's coaching. And, Scott Frost, I understand he had some success as the offensive coordinator at Oregon. He had some success as the head coach down in Central Florida. But let's be honest, man, he hasn't really had success as the head coach at Nebraska. And, this was a big game for him. And I understand it's week 0. I understand they were playing in Dublin, Ireland, but they were a double-digit favorite. They were a team that, was 3-9 last year, and they really were expected to, step up. They got Casey Thompson, the transfer, to come in and supposedly fix, their issues. They blamed a lot of what happened last year on Martinez. Well, it wasn't really Adrian Martinez's fault, as we saw, on Saturday. We got a new quarterback, and we had the same result. So, as I mentioned to you off air, I think it's going to come down to that Oklahoma game. I mean, the next 2 weeks, Nebraska is going to play North Dakota. Then after that, I believe they play Georgia Southern.
Yeah.
Correct me if I'm wrong. I believe it's Georgia Southern. Yes. So they got North Dakota this weekend. They've got Georgia Southern the week after that. I think they'll win both those games. And then on September 17th, they play Oklahoma at home. And if they, if they get abused in that game, I think you could be looking at the end of Scott Frost. I don't know what you think, but that's kind of what I'm seeing here.
He hasn't shown anything, and let's face facts, like we talked about the other day. Since Tom Osborne, it's like that's the coach. That's the place where careers go to die. It's like without they got used to winning 11, 12 games every year under Tom Osborne and being in a national championship conversation. And I understand the landscape has changed, but even when Tom Osborne was there, they were able to stay in the competition when you had Miami that was so great. When you had other teams, that were still competing, they still got their names up there. And since Tom Osborne left, you go through all that litany of coaches they've brought in there, and none of them have even really gotten them back up towards that kind of a level. And it's one of those things where if you grew up in my era in college football, you always could count on Ohio State, Michigan, Penn State, Nebraska, Notre Dame, USC, UCLA, that were going to be Oklahoma, Texas. And so many of those teams aren't really competitive anymore.
No, the focus has shifted. I mean, that's definitely true. Some of these teams that were dominant in the 90s are no longer. And let's be honest here. If Scott Frost hadn't won 2 national championships as the quarterback at Nebraska, he wouldn't be the coach there right now.
No.
We're talking about a guy who's 34-37. As I mentioned, he's 5-21 in one-score games. He has not taken them to a bowl game. He hasn't had a winning season since he's been at Nebraska. He took over, remember, in 2018. He came off the 13-0 season at UCF, where they won all their games. Good for them. I'll give him some credit there. It was a good year. He was had a great season as a coach. They won the Peach Bowl. He was 13-0. They finished ranked 6th in the country. So he gets handed the keys to the kingdom, and he gets to go back home, back where he's from, back where he was the quarterback and won 2 national championships. But since 2018, things have not gone as planned. They were 4-8 in year 1, 5-7 in year 2. In 2020, they were 3-5 in the all Big Ten schedule. And then actually, as we know, last year they finished the season 3-9. If his name wasn't Scott Frost, if he hadn't won 2 national championships, he would have gotten fired after the end of last year. I really was surprised that they brought him back. As we talked about before, my big thing was money. I think they brought him back because he is the prodigal son of Lincoln, Nebraska, and after October 1st, that buyout goes down. It cuts in half. Right. So I think they were like, we're going to give you till October and see how it goes. And as we saw in week 1, it didn't look good. It looked good in the beginning of the game. They jumped out to an early lead. It looked pretty solid, and then they just started falling off. And that onside kick when you're up 11, I didn't understand that. I mean, that he took the blame for that. He said that was his decision, but that was a really dumb decision. And when you've got a guy who in his first game under center for you throws for 355 yards, and you still lose, that's not good. And I don't know. I got to be honest. I was really happy to see Ryan Helinski.
I was about to ask you about him.
Yeah, the quarterback for Northwestern. We know, if you know college football, you know him because he played at South Carolina. He was the quarterback at South Carolina. He started as a freshman, started 11 games, threw for almost 2,400 yards, looked pretty good. Had some injuries, got beat out, transferred to Northwestern, played in 9 games last year. But this year is supposed to be, the big year for him, and he looked really good. And as we saw, he switched numbers to number 3 because of his brother, who was a quarterback up at Washington State and ended his own life last year and kind of shocked the college sports world. And I liked seeing him honor his brother like that, and I liked seeing him play like that. And as you mentioned, Pat Fitzgerald, this is a guy who, if you got one game to win and you can pick one coach, man, I don't know how you could choose against Pat. He's a great
in the
guy.
Conversation. I mean, there's a couple in the conversation. He's right up there. And the thing is, with him, he usually does more with less. One thing I noticed about Northwestern, looking at their roster, and I like Northwestern. I just love the story of Pat Fitzgerald. A lot of transfers, especially in the defensive side of the ball this year. What do you think about the transfer portal helping into the Wildcats?
Yeah, I mean, Nebraska had a lot too. Nebraska's got 20 guys that they picked out of the portal. So, all these teams are reaching in there and pulling them out. The thing with Northwestern is a lot of these guys have been in the program for longer. At least the guys that were on the field on Saturday have been in the program a little bit longer. And these coaches now, they've got to use it to their advantage. They've got to realize that some of their guys are going to leave, and they've got to be going out and recruiting guys off other teams. They've got to use the portal to their advantage. And I think Fitzgerald's been doing that. This is a guy who's been the coach there for over a decade, not to mention he played there and loves that university. He's not going anywhere. So it's a place that guys who are looking for a home can definitely go to. And, this Nebraska defense was supposed to be the cornerstone of this team. And Northwestern goes out there and runs for 214 yards, almost 5 yards a carry in the opener. I think that says a lot about the rushing game for the Wildcats, and led by Evan Hall and Cam Porter. And it says a lot about the Nebraska defense and them not being quite as good as they were led to be.
No, probably not. All right, let's start with the AP poll. Looking at who they think are going to be top 25. The top four you can't argue with. I mean, Alabama, Ohio State, Georgia, Clemson. Of those teams, I mean, Alabama you might as well just pencil them in every year. Ohio State, I know you think is very good. They got their quarterback on both. They have the top two quarterbacks in those two teams. Georgia, trying to repeat, doesn't look great for that, but Georgia's always a quality team. Clemson, what about Clemson this year?
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, I like Clemson. This is a team who had a down year last year, and they still won, 10 games?
Mm-hmm.
The offense wasn't the same, but that was, in my opinion, primarily due to the offensive line taking a step backwards. And also they were missing a slot wide receiver. There was a couple guys that tried to fill in and play that position for them, but they really didn't have that Amari Rodgers guy, that Hunter Renfrow dude that can work the slot and get open. But I like what they've got this year. I mean, I think they added a lot of pieces. They've got the senior Joseph Nagata out at wide receiver. They've got Brandon Spector, who's going to be that slot guy and can do a lot of things that those other guys have done in the past. They've got Antonio Williams, who's a freshman, who's going to get some playing time. And then, the quarterback position, that a lot got thrown on DJU's shoulders last year. But to be honest, when I looked back at the tape, he didn't really have time to throw the football. And that was because, A, the offensive line was not as solid. B, there weren't guys open. So I think DJ is going to get a chance to be the quarterback. And if he doesn't play well, we've seen this coach, make changes before. Dabo's not scared to pull the plug. I mean, they were 4-0 when he benched Kelly Bryant in favor of Trevor Lawrence, and did the same thing previously for Deshaun Watson. So he's going to make the moves that he has to make. But everybody talks about them having a down year last year. They were 10-3 and overall and 6-2, and they won their bowl game. So I think they're definitely worthy of their positioning, maybe a little bit high, but with the schedule that they've got, I like their chances of running the table.
Do you know anything about that Cade Klubnik, their freshman quarterback? Any scouting on him?
Yeah, we broke him down on man coverage quite a bit. This is a kid who definitely has got the talent. He's from Austin, Texas. He played at Westlake High School, who's pumped out talent galore.
Drew Brees.
I mean, you name it. They put guys all over college football and all over the NFL. So. He's played at a high level. It's just, I don't know if he's quite ready. I mean, this kid's 6'2", about 195 pounds. I think he needs to add some strength to get out there. I mean, DJU's a big ass dude, and that's not his issue. I mean, his issue is accuracy. His issue was getting rid of the ball last year, and I think he'll be better. So I think it would be better for Clemson and for Cade if he could sit and learn for a year. But as we've seen in the past, if things aren't going well, they will put this dude in if they have to.
All right, let's talk about number 5. Both of you and I shake our heads when we see this. I'm rooting for him because I root for Notre Dame, and Marcus Freeman I like. The quarterback position really worries me. I mean, Tyler Buckner I'd rather see him than Drew Pine. But if neither of them make it, I don't know what they got after that.
Yeah, I mean, we'll see. I mean, that's one of the things we were going to talk about today is this game on Saturday. I mean, we're going to see what they got really quick. I mean, they're ranked number 5 in the preseason, but they're also 17.5 point underdogs in Columbus versus Ohio State. So, I'm kind of confused by that, because if they are the number 5 ranked team, why the hell are they almost 20-point underdogs? That just confuses the hell out of me, how you can rank a team that high and then give them no chance to win the season opener. I mean, you haven't even seen them play, but they've got some injuries. Avery Davis, their most proven wide receiver, who is a graduate senior, is out for the year and done. That's a big blow to them. They've also had some injuries on the offensive line. And then, as you mentioned, the quarterback position, I don't know. I'm not a big fan of either of these guys, Pine or Buckner. I mean, I've seen them both play, and neither one of them has really stood out. So we'll see what they've got. This Ohio State defense had some problems last year, and we'll see if the Notre Dame can exploit it. But do I think they're the number 5 ranked team in the country? I do not. I think that's a pretty hefty ranking for what they've got on offense.
Well, let's face facts. I mean, to beat Ohio State, you're going to have to run the ball, much like Michigan did last year on them. And I don't see this team. I mean, I know you're not a big Cade McNamara fan, but I think Cade McNamara is better than either one of those two quarterbacks. At least he gives you something that can maybe throw the ball downfield, at least a little bit. But you're gonna have to run the ball, and I just don't see it.
Yeah, I mean, I like their running back a lot in Chris Tyree, and I like the sophomore Logan Diggs. He's looked good at times. The offensive line is good, but as I mentioned, they've got some injuries up there. So who's going to be ready to go? I'm not 100% sure just yet. And are they going to be able to move around that defensive front for the Buckeyes? I don't think so. We'll talk about the Buckeyes here in a second, but that Buckeye defense, especially under Jim Knowles, I think it's going to surprise some people. I know everybody thinks, Nate's just saying that because he loves the Buckeyes. Well, Nate's also watched about every practice that's been filmed, and it looks like a completely different system. It is a completely different system, and it's not going to be as vanilla. I mean, I love Kerry Coombs, but he just kind of went with the base structure and rolled with it. And as we saw in that Oregon game, that wasn't going to get it done. So this guy Knowles knows what he's doing. If you watched Oklahoma State play last year, the strength of their team was defense, not offense. And the reason because of that was Jim Knowles. And so I think he's going to make a big difference. And yeah, I don't think Notre Dame's going to be able to just run the football all over the Buckeyes. I just don't see that happening.
What answers do the Fighting Irish have to come up with for C.J. Stroud in that offense? It looks like it should be a very prolific offense. I'm not telling anything that anybody who knows anything about football doesn't know. But, I mean, the other thing about this Ohio State team is the pressure's going to be on them from day one. And you said, you've been watching them. C.J. Stroud, where would you want to see him improve this year? What's the hole in his game?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think there really is a hole. I mean, this is a guy who threw for almost 5,000 yards and 44 touchdowns. He was not the problem last year. C.J. Stroud has had a tremendous year. I think there was some people that wanted to see him maybe run the football a little bit. But you know what? I wasn't one of those people. This guy is a pocket passer, and I don't really want to see him running the football. We have Travion Henderson. We've got Mayan Williams. We had Evan Pryor till he went down with injury, but we've got several running backs that can run the football. And I don't want to see C.J. Stroud run the football. I want to see him throw it. The one thing that I do want to see is I want to see the protection be a little bit better. We've had some changes on the offensive line. Paris Johnson Jr., who, was projected to be a big-time left tackle. Well, we're going to see if he is because he's going to play there this year. And we've still got DeJuan Jones, that big old heap of man out at right tackle, 6'8", 360 pounds, man in the right side. So, that's going to be the big thing for me is can those two tackles hold up and can they keep the guys off of him? And if they can, look out because holy crap, does he have some stuff to throw to. I mean, Jackson Smith and Jigba is the best wide receiver in college football. Marvin Harrison Jr. might be the best redshirt freshman in college football. Emeka Ibuka showed flashes last year in the kicking game and also when he got a chance on the field. Julian Fleming was the number one wide receiver in the country 3 years ago when he came out of high school. He's yet to really blossom, but he's going to get his chance this year. And then there's several freshmen that are ready to go and a couple of seniors and juniors that are going to get a chance. So I don't know. I mean, I don't know what else you want C.J. Stroud to do, but I think if he can, if he can stay upright and if they can block for him, he's going to have a pretty similar season to what you saw last year.
All right, another couple more interesting games on the first week. Oregon Ducks going to Georgia. What does Oregon have coming back this year that could potentially give Georgia any kind of problem?
Yeah, I mean, this team, everybody's kind of counting out the Oregon Ducks because the coach left. Cristobal took his talents down to the U, but it's not like he left the cupboard bare. I mean, I'm pretty impressed with the roster that's still there in Oregon. I mean, they've got, I believe, 14 starters back from last year's team, and I know they lost their number 1 and number 2 running backs, but I don't think that's going to affect them a whole lot. The biggest thing for me is, what the quarterback position looks like. I think defense will be fine. I love, as you know, Noah Sewell, the middle linebacker for Oregon. They've got to replace your boy Kayvon Thibodeau, who's already hurt for the Giants. But, he wasn't on the field a whole lot last year. Braden Swinson and DJ Johnson should be able to fill that void, in my opinion. And, the biggest thing to me is, the quarterback position. If they can get Hicks to play well, and if he doesn't, can the freshman Ty Thompson come in and play well? Those are the biggest question marks for me, is that position. But if they can get some play out of the quarterback position, I think they'll be just fine up in Oregon. And I think this first week is going to be very telling. It's on a neutral site, but really I believe they're playing in Atlanta. So there's going to be more Georgia fans than there are Oregon fans. That's for sure.
I'll tell you, Bo Nix, I tell you, his freshman year at Auburn, you thought, okay, I see something there. And the way he regressed was just, it was hard to fathom what was going on in his head. I mean, I know that Auburn kind of stayed the same, and Alabama got better, and LSU got better, and, Georgia got better, and Auburn kind of was sitting there, running on empty. But Bo Nix, it was kind of tragic to watch how bad he went down fast in the minds of everybody in Auburn.
Yeah, I mean, the best game, or one of the best games, was definitely that first game against Oregon when he came out as a freshman and played well. But I did see some things that he just never really got better at. And was that on him? Was that on the coaching staff? There's been a lot of turmoil in Auburn the last few years, and maybe it'll serve him to get out of there. We've seen that with other kids at other places where a change of scenery has helped their career. He had a lot to live up to with his dad being the quarterback there and going undefeated in 1994 with Terry Bowden. So, maybe getting away from his dad's shadow will help him. But I'm really looking forward to this game because nobody's really given Oregon a shot. But I think, if anybody knows Georgia's defense, it's Dan Lanning. I mean, he coached them last year in the national championship game. So if anybody knows that scheme and knows some couple of ways to potentially get some points against it, it's him.
Another game that's going to be at 3:30 same day is Cincinnati against Arkansas, which I think is very intriguing just to see what Cincinnati has left in the tank.
Yeah, I mean, this is actually, I think, an amazing game. It's going to be at Razorback Stadium in Fayetteville, Arkansas. So I believe that's one of the big reasons why Arkansas is a 6-point favorite. But I'm not ready to write off the Bearcats just yet. I mean, this Coach Fickell knows what the hell he's doing. I mean, if last year taught us anything, or if the last couple of years have taught us anything, is that Coach Fickell has his program going in the right direction. I know Desmond Ritter's gone. I know that Sauce Gardner is gone. I know that a lot of their running back is gone. I understand that they've got a lot of dudes that are no longer on that team. But, their quarterback, Ben Bryant, he's a senior. He's a transfer. He's played in games before. I think this will definitely be a good test to see where the Cincinnati program is at. And to be honest with you, I think they have a shot at winning this game. I know they're underdogs. I know people are picking Arkansas, but I would not be surprised to see Cincinnati win this.
I like Fickell for a lot of reasons. I like Pat Fitzgerald. But I don't know if he'll stick around for life like Pat Fitzgerald looks like he's going to at Northwestern. Another game that looks like it should be very intriguing, and is the reason I'm bringing up these games is because of the defection of USC and UCLA. The Pac-12 is going to be under a microscope. Utah going to Florida.
Yeah, that is going to be a huge game. And to be honest with you, I'm taking Utah in this one. I saw all I needed to see last year in that Rose Bowl game with Utah. I mean, they've got a lot of people coming back, and let's be honest, if Cameron Rising doesn't get hurt in that Rose Bowl game, Utah could have very easily won and beat the Buckeyes. So I don't think they're scared or they're nervous or they're hesitant at all about going into the swamp and playing Florida. I mean, they're the 7th ranked team and are a 3-point favorite, even though, they're going into a hostile SEC environment. And if anybody can do it, it's that coach and it's that team in Utah. So I'm interested to see that game too. I think those are some of the most interesting games of the week. I mean, obviously Ohio State, Notre Dame's going to have the most eyes on it, but I think that Georgia, Oregon game, the Arkansas Cincinnati game, and then this Utah Florida game are probably the most interesting games of the weekend.
Yeah, Cameron Rising he's got that swagger to him that you love to see in kind of like a Doug Flutie swagger or a Baker Mayfield swagger. That he's the kind of guy that on a given year could steal a Heisman Trophy away from one of the favorites.
If they go undefeated and they win the conference, I mean, why not? Why shouldn't he get the award if he plays like he did last year? I agree with you. And the biggest thing to me is what does Anthony Richardson look like? I mean, he didn't have to battle. Emory Jones transferred. He was kind of the de facto starter. This is a completely different team than it was going to be last year with Dan Mullen's departure. Obviously, we know who Billy Napier is. He is a guy that is kind of a no-nonsense kind of dude, and he's going to kind of do things his own way. But you got to win down in Gainesville, or they'll get you the hell out of there really fast. So
Steve Spurrier killed everybody with that.
Yeah, there's a lot of pressure on this guy's shoulders to win this game, and I'm not sure this team's ready. I mean, we saw that collapse last year where everything just fell apart towards the end of the season, finishing 6-7, 2-6 in the SEC. They've got a lot. They've got a lot to come back from last year.
How about one last one of this week coming up? The Monday night game, 8 p.m. Could be a fun. Clemson should win, but I mean, does Georgia Tech have anything to go after them with?
No.
Okay.
I think this is a game where really, Georgia Tech got to be the de facto team to play, in Atlanta. Because that's where their school is, and they get to play in the Mercedes-Benz Dome. But are they going to have a chance of beating Clemson? No. I think that game is going to be one-sided for sure.
All right, I'm going to play low or higher with you in the AP poll. We've already gone over Alabama, Ohio State, Georgia, Clemson, Notre Dame in the top 5. We know the question mark at Notre Dame, so we'll know it's there. Number 6, Texas A&M, low or higher?
Until I see it, I'm not going to believe it. So I'm going to say higher.
We got Utah. We talked about a few minutes ago. We both like them, so we're going to go over them. Here's the one which is easy for me to predict, but I want to see how bad it is. Michigan Wolverines at number 8.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought them up, actually, because I've got a little. I'll give you my prediction here in a second, but I've got to discuss something here about the old Wolverines. If the Ohio State Buckeyes open their season starting on September 3rd against Colorado State and then came back the following weekend on September 10th and played Hawaii, who just got shellanked and beat 63-10 against Vanderbilt, and then comes back the following weekend on September 17th against Connecticut, who a little thing about in the military appreciation game, and then opens up their Big Ten season against Maryland with their homecoming. There'd be people screaming from the rooftops. But somehow the Wolverines can put that schedule together and no one says shit. And I really don't understand that. They should be criticized for this schedule. It's a joke. Big Jimmy Harbaugh's come out in the press the last few weeks and announced how he's going to start one quarterback one game and one quarterback the next game. And that is just such a close battle that's how he's going to have to do it. Well, hell, he can do it. They've got 2 preseason games or 3 preseason games to start off with. And it's an utter joke. I mean, I really, I was kind of blown away when no one really said anything when they scrapped the home and home against Arkansas, because this Cincinnati game that we're going to see on Saturday, the Cincinnati-Arkansas game, that's supposed to be the Wolverines playing in Fayetteville. But they backed out of that home and home, and Cincinnati picked it up. So kudos to Coach Fickle and the Bearcats for picking up the poop that the Wolverines left behind.
Kind of reminds me of Notre Dame that no one ever made a big deal about when at the end of the Lou Holtz era there, when he stopped playing Penn State and Miami.
Yeah.
But I mean, Connecticut was on an all-time losing streak until they beat Yale, and Yale could have won that game.
Yeah, and I will give them some credit. Coach Mora had the guys looking pretty good last week. They came out in their opener and played Utah State out in Utah, and they jumped out to an early 14-0 lead and looked pretty good in the first quarter. Of course, they gave up 24 points in the second quarter. But, I'll give Jim Mora Jr. credit. He had that team looking a lot different, in that first half. And maybe he'll be able to do something with that program. And I hope he does. But let's be honest.
It's going to take a couple of years.
It's going to take a couple of years, and it's not going to be this year. So to put them on your schedule after you open up against Colorado State and Hawaii, that's just ridiculous. And I'm so blown away that no one's even discussing that, because that should be the number one thing on every newscast.
I will say the Huskies did go into Notre Dame and beat Charlie Weiss and his Fighting Irish one year. So
yeah, and that was 12 years ago. So
yeah, I know. All right, Oklahoma Sooners at number 9. Higher, lower?
I really have no idea. To be honest with you, I am very anxious to see what Oklahoma looks like in the first week of the season. I mean, Lincoln Riley, really built that team on that offense. And, he had those quarterbacks one after the other, Baker Mayfield, Kyler Murray, Jalen Hurts, Spencer Rattler, Caleb Williams. I mean, that's a collection of some of the greatest quarterbacks back to back that we've ever seen. And it's going to look a little bit different with Venables at the helm. But this guy's been training for this his whole life. He gets to open up against UTEP. That should be a pretty good game to get things, get their feet underneath them. I didn't lose that much. I think they're probably pretty good right where they're at.
All right, Baylor at number 10.
Yeah, I think they should definitely be higher in my opinion. They lost a lot. They lost both starting safeties. They lost their big time running back. They've got a new quarterback who did not finish the season for them last year. I know he played on the team last year, but he wasn't the guy that finished out the season for them. So, I know that Dave Aranda made magic happen last year, but to just assume that it's going to happen again, I think is kind of a stretch. And I think that I think this team may take a step back.
Let's see. We talked about the Oregon Ducks. Oklahoma State.
Yeah. I think this team probably is living a little bit off their last year. This team does have their quarterback coming back, but let's be honest, Spencer Sanders isn't that good. So I don't know if that really helps them. And as I mentioned earlier in the show, Jim Knowles is gone. So, Derek Mason, although I like him as a man and I like him as a coach, I don't think he brings the same type of thunder that Jim Knowles does and that he did bring to that defense. So I think you're going to see a step backwards at Oklahoma State this year. And I think 12 is a little bit high for them. I think they should be higher.
We're going to the ACC. North Carolina State Wolfpack at number 13.
I think actually they should be lower. I think this is a team that is going to surprise a lot of people. I understand that nobody is really talking about them, but this is a team that has a chance to win the ACC conference. And, people aren't even discussing it, but they beat Clemson last year. And, they might be better this year. They've got the quarterback, on their roster ready to go. They've got a really good defense. They've got a really good coach in Dave Doran. They were 9-3 last year, and no one's really talking about them. But I like their quarterback Devin Leary, and I like their running back Jordan Houston, and I love their receivers, and I like everything about this team. And I think that they may, I know they finished in a tie for second last year in the Atlantic, but I think they've got a shot to win the Atlantic this year if ever they were going to do it.
USC Trojan at 14, Lincoln Riley effect here. But they're playing in the Big Ten. It's a different world now. What do you think about USC?
Well, they don't have to play in the Big Ten this year.
Oh, wait, that's right.
So that's a good thing for them. They get to play in the Pac-12 this year, so that's actually a very favorable for them because the Pac-12 sucks, and that's really the only reason that they are probably ranked this high, because people think they're going to finish with a good record based on the teams that they play. But, they've got a lot of flashy guys at the, Jordan Addison at wide receiver who they brought in, the wide receiver they brought from Oklahoma, Caleb Williams, all these big name players. They can't do much unless the lines play good. And I know they had a big recruiting class this year, but I still think it's going to take a year or two for him to get that team back up into a top 10 form. And I think this ranking might be a little bit high.
Michigan State Spartans at 15.
Yeah, Michigan State's not getting any press. I mean, this is a team that, won their bowl game last year and dominated the Big Ten. They were the only team that beat Michigan last year. And, Mel Tucker's getting no love. And I think he kind of likes it that way. But I got to be honest, I think they're ranked a little bit too high. Or they're ranked higher than they should be. I think they should be lower because this is a team that's bringing back their quarterback. I understand that the Kenneth Walker III is gone, but they've got Jalen Berger, running back, a sophomore transfer coming in. This is a team that's really thrived off the transfer portal the last couple of years. And this is a team that was 11-2 last year. As I mentioned, they won their bowl game and beat, was it Pittsburgh in the bowl game and finished 7-2. And I look for them to repeat and have another good season. I think they're ranked a little bit. They should be a little bit lower.
16, the U, Miami.
Yeah, the U. I get it, man. They got Cristobal. They think they've got a quarterback in Van Dyke, and now they're going to win the national championship. I don't think so. I think they're a little bit high. I still think they're a year or two away. I know they had a good recruiting class, but I'm not ready to crown them champions just yet. And start thinking that it's 1990 again. I think they're ranked a little high as far as where they should be. I think they should be higher.
And then we have 17, the Pittsburgh Panthers without Kenny Pickett.
Yeah, I understand Kenny Pickett's gone, but this is a team that, as I said, still played Michigan State tough in that bowl game. And, they were playing with their third-string quarterback because Kenny Pickett did not play. The backup got hurt. And now they've got Keaton Slovis. I mean, no one's even mentioning that, but Keaton Slovis, who transferred from USC, is now out in Pittsburgh. And this is a dude who, when he was a freshman, was probably one of the top, if not the top, freshman quarterback in the whole country. Now, the big loss to me is Braylon Addison, the wide receiver who won the Biletnikoff Award last year. Him transferring to USC really hurts. And do they have the playmakers to replace him? I don't know. I don't really think so, but maybe they can do it by committee. But I do love their running back, Israel Abanikanda. He's a badass. And, with him running the football and with Keaton Slovis throwing it, I think this team is definitely worthy of the ranking that they're at.
Next is Wisconsin with Graham Merz. Is this guy ever going to develop into the quarterback he was supposed to be?
No, I don't think so. I mean, they're going to be. I think they're going to be back to the Wisconsin of old in the sense that they're going to be able to run the football this year. They've got the running back to do it, man. I mean, this guy might be the best running back in the country, and Braylon Allen. He ran all over people last year as a freshman, and he's going to do it again. Let's talk about their line. They've got a redshirt senior, a redshirt junior, a redshirt senior, redshirt freshman, and then a redshirt sophomore. So they've got some, they've got the beef up front, and they've got the running back, and the defense is always good. We know about that defensive coordinator. He played at Wisconsin. He's coached at Wisconsin ever since he got done playing in the NFL, and he's pretty good. And Paul Chryst knows what he's doing. I think Wisconsin will have a bounce back year, but they're only going to go as far as Graham Mertz takes them, and I'm just not in love with that kid. So I think they're probably
happen.
Yeah, I think they're probably good right where they're at.
Arkansas, we talked about it in 19. Kentucky. Now, this is a team that intrigues everybody in my area right now because they're hoping that Will Levis becomes, or Levi or Levis becomes the replacement for Daniel Jones. So that's and I'm getting a kick out of the Calipari Stoops war. So, what do you think about Kentucky?
Yeah, this is a team that was 10-3 last year in the SEC East. So, I don't think they get the credit that they deserve. They lost their wide receiver who's now playing for their Giants, Wan'Dale Robinson, but they've got Tavion Robinson who transferred in. He should be able to pick up that slack. They've got their pretty good running back in Kavosi Smoke and Ramon Jefferson. Both those guys are pretty solid. And I do like Will Levis. Do I think he's a first-round draft pick? I'm not so sure about that. I'm not ready to put him into a starting role in the NFL just yet. But I do think he's good enough to win some games for Kentucky. And to be honest, I'm not as sold on the Vols as everybody else is. So I think Kentucky's got a chance to win the SEC East. And I think that ranking is a little bit too high. I think they should be lower.
Ole Miss 21.
Ole Miss is kind of starting fresh here. I mean, they had a really, really good season last year. But Matt Corral is gone. Jackson Dart and Luke Altmaier are the two quarterbacks that are going to have to get them to that next level. But, they also lost they lost a couple running backs. They lost some wide receivers. They lost a lot on defense. So I think it's going to take them some time. I think that, what are they, 21? Is that right? I think 21 is probably about right for them just because of where they play. I mean, 10-3 is really good, what they had last year, considering they were in the SEC West. The question is, what are they going to look like this year? I don't know. I don't know what to expect out of Jackson Dart. They did get Michael Trigg to transfer from USC as well. And Lane Kiffin's a good play caller, but that schedule is rough. And, they got 2 games to get it right because they play Troy and then they play Central Arkansas and also play Georgia Tech, Tulsa. So, they've got a chance to go 4-0, but then it begins. Then they got Kentucky, then they play Auburn, then they play LSU, then they play A&M, then they play Bama, then they play Arkansas, and then Mississippi State. So, their schedule looks good, but I think they'll probably finish about right where they're starting, right around between 18 and 22.
Wake Forest coming off an 11-3 season. But, I mean, the Demon Deacons, the consistency to keep up that kind of a pace is tough on a team like Wake Forest because they just don't have the pedigree.
Well, that and their quarterback is out, with a undisclosed injury, and we don't know when they're getting him back, and that's a big problem because Sam Hartman was the heart and soul of this team. Now they still have A.T. Perry, one of the best wide receivers in the country. They've still got Dave Clausen, who, won 11 games at Wake Forest. I think he should have been the coach of the year last year for winning 11 games at Wake Forest. I mean, that's freaking unbelievable if you ask me. But a lot of that was due to their quarterback and Sam Hartman. And I don't know a whole lot about what's going on with him, but it's a non-football related illness or injury, and he's going to be out for an extended period of time, and that does not bode well for the Demon Deacons. So it's kind of a wait and see approach for them. When does he come back? And what does he look like when he gets back? I mean, I don't know what kind of illness he has. Like I said, no one really knows, but they play VMI to start the season. They should have no problem there. But in week 2, they play Vanderbilt, which this year's Vanderbilt team looks a lot different than last year's Vanderbilt team. I mean, I understand it was week 0, but they dropped 63 points on Hawaii, and they're the leading scoring team in the country right now.
It won't last too many weeks, but yeah, it is. Anytime you run up 60 points on a team, you're doing something. Because I mean, for the most part, these teams shouldn't blast somebody by 60 points. The last 2 we'll talk about is Houston at 24 and BYU at 25. I mean, the BYU has a great legacy. Houston has a great legacy, but I mean, are they right where they should be?
I think honestly, BYU is probably a little bit underrated considering the talent that they've got on this team. BYU is a program that, year in and year out has been competing, getting it done. And I think they're going to continue to do so. I mean, I don't really understand why they're ranked so low, because I think they probably should be a little bit higher, honestly. And I think they'll surprise some people. I mean, they play Baylor in week 2, and that's when we'll really see what BYU's got. But they've got a pretty good schedule this year. They play Baylor, like I said, week 2, and then they play Oregon in week 3, and then Wyoming the week after that. And they also play Arkansas and Liberty this year, as well as Boise State. So I think it's going to be a very interesting season, but I could see BYU getting on a roll and knocking some of these teams off. They also play Notre Dame in week 6, so that should be interesting.
And Notre Dame, and they got a kind of a semi-rivalry. Notre Dame's usually been able to beat them, but it doesn't mean it's going to happen all the time. So we got that going for us. We're gonna have to wrap it up now. So what's going on Sunday for you with man coverage?
We're gonna just break down the ball games, man. We're gonna come back and see what happened in these games and give you a full breakdown on what we thought, what we saw. I mean, this is week 1, really. So a lot of these teams, it's gonna be our first opportunity to see what they've got. And as we discussed on the show, there's a lot of really good games. And as I mentioned, the ones that are really interesting to me are that Cincinnati-Arkansas game. I think that's a really interesting one. I think that bringing back the backyard brawl is going to be kind of cool. West Virginia is playing Pittsburgh at 7 o'clock on ESPN. Yeah, that's going to be a fun game. And as we mentioned, Oregon and Georgia. I mean, that's going to be cool to watch. I'm interested to see what that game looks like. So we're going to come back and break all those games down and figure out what happened and who the winners and losers were of week 1.
Yeah, I can't wait. This is I've been waiting for a long time now. I can't wait for this to get started. The one thing I wanted to talk about before we tune off tonight, 2 things. First of all, watching Thibodeau go down with the injury with the Giants the other night. It wasn't a dirty play. I'm not saying that, but I now understand why guys don't want to play, or it's another example of why guys don't want to play in the preseason, because it was a chop block, a clean block, but I mean, man, you don't want to lose them in a preseason game over something like that.
I understand, but let's be honest, man. This guy's hurt. I mean, he gets hurt walking to the damn water fountain. And that was my one knock on him coming out was how long is he going to be out there for? And how many games is he going to play? And how long until he gets hurt? Well, hell, he didn't even make it to week 1.
No.
And, that's a big, big concern of mine is, what kind of durability does Thibodeau have? I mean, he there was a lot of games I felt like last year that he could have played in that he didn't. And one in particular was that Ohio State game. Now, his boys still got it done. But what would that game have looked like with Thibodeau out there? Yeah. I mean,
especially in a game like that, he should want to play against C.J. Stroud. He should want to. That's not the game you want to sit there. I mean, we were talking before about Kevin Pierre-Louis getting, maybe he's at the end of his pro career, but I remember covering him as a high school kid. And I remember one game he banged up his shoulder and he's getting it strapped up by the team doctor. And his mother comes over and tells him, Kevin, you should sit out. And Kevin was like, no, players play.
Yeah.
And
man,
the football thing.
Yeah, and I like Thibodeau. I think he's a good, talented young man, but you got to get him acclimated to the NFL game. He's got to learn the system. He's got to get a handle on what it's like to go against NFL linemen. I mean, he can't just do his speed move every time. He's got to come up with a second and third move, and you got to get out there to do that, and to go down and. When he was actually starting to finally play pretty decently, and to go down in the second preseason game and now be out for 4 to 6 weeks, I think this shows exactly the reason that I was concerned.
And before we tune out, as an Irishman, I have to throw this in there. Props to Rory McIlroy for his comeback last weekend to win that golf championship. I mean, he was down with 7 strokes going into the weekend, and he came back and won it. So we don't talk a lot of golf, but I want to throw something out there to Rory.
Yeah, no, man. Congrats to him. With all these guys bolting for the Live Tour, maybe this, as you said, maybe this will give him a chance to start getting some victories, since most of the guys that used to beat him are gone.
There you go. Can't join him, beat him. There you go. All right. Have a good night. We will get back next week to talking about. We'll be ready we'll get our NFL picks next weekend. Everybody enjoy college football. It is back. There's no reason why you can't find at least 1 or 2 or 3 games to go to watch this weekend, because there's a lot of interesting things going on. I hope you enjoyed us breaking it down. And Nate, enjoy it. I'll talk to you next week.
All right, buddy. Sounds good.